Started. Before I go further, I just want to set the expectation for this meeting. Okay, so this is about the ADU route that we went through. So I wanted to share with people and get them up to speed as what it took for us to build an ADU for Athish. And the reasons for that is a lot of things are new, and some of the states it's still coming up. Some of the cities are still catching up with the local codes and everything. So with that said, we didn't have a smooth ride. We had a bumpy ride because our city wasn't up to date with their legal department in terms of setbacks and whatnots and everything. So that kind of delayed to a good extent, maybe about 3, 4 months in the time frame. So what I wanted to get people up to speed is, hey, what did we do, and what we think that would be good for people, and what kind of inspections that we had to go through, and what can be done better, or rather, depending on people, circumstances, and scenario. So we're not going to talk about more. I mean, we're just going to talk about this. You guys can fire with questions on the ADU side and things like that, but not in terms of, how do you get loan, how do you fund for the ADU and everything. We'll refrain from that. So with that said, let me get going. Looks like there's a lot of people already joined. I should come out of this guy. Okay. I hope people are able to hear me, right?
Hello, Maria, I don't know what to plan, but what to do with Barry.
You want to mute everyone, Meena, or I can do it.
I do. Okay.
Okay. So let's get started, guys. Okay. So thanks for joining. I know it's during the weekday and people really wanted to join, which shows the interest that you guys have. And as I said, we wanted to kind of, go through this, the first-hand stuff and see what it takes for ADU. So with that said, I also had, in fact, I drove a lot of the things myself with the city. Even though the contractor were involved, most of the driving things were done by me. And primarily because I wanted to understand what it takes and what are the different moving parts and inspections and what are the stuff are needed. But even though I went through that, it may not be the same for all the cities. It could be different. It could be different for different cities. But at least when people reach out to us, I thought I'll be in a position to kind of give them the needed pointers and then move on. What is this guy? Oh, sorry. Okay. And I'm sure you guys all know what an ADU is, right? So I'm just kind to re-emphasize here. And other thing, I was told that there are a lot of people outside of California have joined this call too. And I just want to put a disclaimer there, every state is different. You might want to check with your state. But when I started looking at ADU, I did do a lot of research in terms of Portland, Seattle and places how people are doing ADU in terms of ADU itself, not in terms of for a special needs person to be in ADU, but at least to get a feel like how other states are doing it. But with that said, our zone is California, so I know pretty much what is going on with what we went through, so I can guide you guys for that. So this concept had been there for quite a long time. I'm sure people would know about it. So it's also called a granny flat, right? So the thing is, it's a secondary housing unit in the same residential lot, right? So earlier it used to be where elderly parents, instead of living in a different place, so it was thought through saying, hey, let them kind of, have a private space in the kids' backyard so that, they get the private space and kids get to take care of them. So that's the whole concept of this ADU or granny flats, or people call in-law units too, right? And now what's getting popular is, people have started using this. And first of all, I think I'm losing track of dates. Maybe it was in 2020. Yeah, I think 2020 January or so. There are a couple of laws that are being signed in California, which kind of lifted some of the restrictions and everything that's required to build the ADU. So from that time on, it really became popular, and a lot of people are building ADU, thinking it's going to be helpful for them. And when I say a lot of people, it's just not people with special needs or the special needs population or the parents of kids with special needs. It's the general population wanted to build ADU as more of an income generating unit as well. Okay. And so the second thing is I purposely picked it up from aside because I don't want it to jinx it. Okay. So the point with ADU is the crucial thing is it needs to be a self-contained unit. Okay. So what it means is it needs to have its own amenities, kitchen, bathroom, sleeping area, and storage. Okay. And there is a reason I call this out. I think a couple of slides down the line, I'm going to touch on a different thing where I will tie this up with that one, but for now, hold your thought on it. So what you see here on the left is actually the ADU that we built for Athish. Okay, the types of ADU is detached ADU, attached ADU, and garage ADU, right? So what we choose to do is a detached, and the primary reason for, not sorry, detached, sorry, an attached ADU, my apologies. And the reason for that is we don't have space in our backyard to have a detached ADU. And we were tight on space. The only place that we can pull it through is in a side yard. Okay. I think towards the end, I have some pictures of how the side yard looked and how it transformed and everything too. So as you can see here to the right, the unit that's on the right side with the gate and everything. So that is the one that is being built where my son Athish lives there. Okay. Previously, we did not have any of them. It's just a two-story building that was just set by the builder. So the ones to the right are being added as part of the ADU itself. So the bottom line here is, when people wanted to venture into ADU, it is better to have an attached ADU because for us to go, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with attached and detached. It's better to have a detached ADU so that, you don't have to alter anything to the existing home. And in that way, it's kind of, independent by itself. You don't have to clobber with the existing exteriors of your home and then cause trouble to it. So I always prefer a detached, and I would recommend people to go with a detached one if they have lot and everything. Okay. And the last one is a garage ADU, and I've seen a lot of people in San Diego primarily. They are building garage ADU, but they try to build the garage ADU and then rent it out. So what that means is you can give away your garage, and most of the people in California park their cars on the street and driveway. So they really don't need a garage. So a lot of people convert the garage to an ADU. They put a bedroom and things there and make things work. And again, it depends on how your garage is laid out. I know like one of our friends, when I looked at their home, a garage ADU was a good option for them because they had a bathroom and a bedroom upstairs, so which means they could tie it up with the garage and make a bigger ADU. So it kind of depends exclusively on the type of home you have and where you live and everything. But given a choice, if people have to do it, I would prefer to go with a detached ADU instead of an attached or a garage ADU. What I wanted to touch on is, I'm not sure how many of folks know about all these the red tag process that needs to go with the city and everything. It's a process that you cannot escape. Okay, so if you go with a custom ADU that you want to build, right? Every city has got different process that they follow, but I just called out some of the stuff here where, as I mentioned, in fact, I'm guessing I might have missed out about 5 or 6 more inspections here. Okay. And every city is different. Some city, I have even more, a longer list of inspections that they follow. But some of them, they trim down on the inspection. But I would say most of them go through a very, very detailed inspection. Okay. So before I go to the inspection, I know I put the inspection in, but there is a big process to be followed to actually get to this mode. I think maybe I have that as the next slide. Okay. I'll come back to the one I think uh, I need to rearrange it. Okay. So once you guys, or once somebody wants to start an ADU, right, then you work with a contractor, other folks, and architect, and everyone to make it happen, right? So there's a lot more things involved in that, wherein you hire an architect, but we did not. I did pretty much everything myself, but you hire an architect, try to see how it's going to look and how you wanted to do it. And then the architect will kind of, work through with their engineering department, convert it to an engineering drawing. And then they do something called a truss calculations, which is primarily for the roof truss and everything. Okay. And that is what has to be submitted to the city to begin the process with. Okay. And one thing I wanted to call out is, as I said, the laws in California got changed starting January 2020 or so. Before that, the setback rules for ADU were completely different. Okay, I think the setback was 5 feet or 6 feet. I think 5 feet, and then from the back it has to be 10 feet. I think. So with the law that came in starting January, the setbacks for the ADU is 4 feet from the side and 4 feet from the back. Okay, that is one of the reason we were able to pull it through in the limited space we have. Okay, so what I'm trying to get to is, there's a lot of moving parts. It's so much of process that people have to digest and go through. And I'm sure we cannot solve all of them in this call, right? But at least I want people to start thinking about it and then, try to see which one makes sense for you guys. Okay. But so coming back to this one, it took us about 3 to 4 months for the engineering drawing and the trust cows. And one thing that happened, I made the statement at the beginning of the call at our city, and ADU was new to everyone, and the city was trying to catch up with the latest laws and everything. So one thing that we ran into issue that delayed is, some of the cities, the setbacks are set by the state. The city cannot have an ordinance on top of that. The city cannot come back and say, hey, cities say, even though the state says 4 feet setback, city cannot come in and say the setback needs to be 10 feet or 6 feet or 7 feet or whatever. So city has to follow the setbacks that is being set by the state. And that's one of the thing where we didn't get clarity from the city, and I had to work with the state, get that confirmation, and then work with the city legal department and get the things updated at their end so that they all are on the same page that it's a 4 feet setback. But one of the things that I found, which came as a surprise to me, but that's good that we went through so that people know about it. The height of the ADU also matters. So the height of the ADU, typically by definition, it is 16 feet. It cannot be more than 16 feet. But I've seen certain cities, I don't recollect, maybe San Diego and San Jose, I don't recollect, but a couple of cities came up with the thing saying if it is an attached ADU, then the height of the ADU can follow the pitch of the primary home. So what it means is, like it can follow the same pitch of the roof and it can come for the ADU as well if it's an attached ADU. And which means, there are chances for people to have a loft and other area as well within the ADU. But unfortunately, what happened in our case, I went with that thinking, hey, that's a standard every city will follow. So we went through the process. A month later, city came back and said, or probably they caught it quick. I won't put the blame on the city. They came back within a week and told us saying, hey, the height of us cannot be, the way that we wanted. So it has to stick to 16 feet max. Okay. So because of that, we had the setback and we had to kind of redo the entire engineering drawing, cross calcs and all those parts and then resubmit it to the city. So that delayed, in our case, maybe it cost about a 3 to 4 month delay with that. Okay. So the takeaway from this is, you guys have to work with a good architect, a good contractor, and also ensure that certain things are properly documented in the city and the contractor knows the city rules. Somebody had a question? Okay. So the contractor is aware of the city rules and guidelines and everything because I can't put the blame on my contractor. He's not from this area. So he had worked in different cities, but not in the city that I live in. Okay. So there's some back and forth that he had to go to understand the stuff. But what would be helpful if people are starting, get a good architect, contractor, and ensure the contractor knows the city ordinance, city rules, and everything, so that you can definitely cut down on the time it takes to actually build the ADU itself. Okay. And the other things that I called out, I don't have to go deep in it, but it's just to give an idea. Again, there's something else I wanted to touch, which will all tie it up together. Is so it just not ends with submitting the drawings and things to the city, right? The city takes it. It takes city almost a month or so to approve it and say, yes, the plans are okay, it's looking good, proceed to the next step. So that's the time, you've got to pay the city permit fees. I think I paid about $2,500 or whatever. And then there'll be other fees to do with the city, not city, sorry, to the school district. There's an amount that needs to be paid to the school district. I think that is calculated based on the square footage of the ADU itself. So we have to do all those payments and then start off with the actual foundation and all the work that are needed. So let me give a pause here. I mean, if people have some quick questions or something I can handle, because I just want to set the stage. This is to educate people what we went through so that, it can be more interactive. If you have questions too, we can handle that. That way it'll be helpful for everyone.
Hi, Som. This is Karthik. Did you
Hey,
at ever point consider a drop-in ADU? There are ones that are like pre-constructed but conform to all the norms, so you don't have to go through all this process, and it's much faster. Did you ever consider that?
Yeah, I will. That's a great question, Karthik. Hold your thought on that. I think I will come back to it. Okay. We went with or rather, we started with manufactured home. We looked at other prefab homes, modular homes, and stuff like that too. Okay, and it depends on what kind of room you have in your lot as well, which I will talk about. I think I've covered something in the next few slides or so. But that's a great question because that's something I wanted people to consider given the pain that we went through. I don't want people to go through the same pain of doing a stick-built home.
Could you talk about what city you are from?
Sorry, can you repeat it? I didn't get it.
Which city are you from?
Okay, we live in Rancho Cordova. It's part of Sacramento County.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So any other?
There are some questions. There are some questions in the chat box.
Chat, sorry. Okay, let me see whatever the appropriate time. Okay, I think I already covered. We have Sacramento. Has anyone used boxable exterior, which we'll talk about it? Do state laws override? Oh, that's a good question on state law. Okay, one thing about the ADU is, fortunately, we don't have HOA, but what I read, which you wanted to double check, is HOA cannot draw a line when it comes to ADU. ADU is dictated by the state, and state is encouraging people to build ADU. So with that said, HOA cannot interfere. Okay, if you get the permit from the city, you're good to go. That's what I read, but it's better to double check. But from what I've seen, HOA cannot interfere with that. So HOA is a homeowners association, and a lot of times, they have CC&Rs and all the stuff that people have to follow. If you don't follow that, they will give you a lot of trouble, and they do that for a reason, but sometimes it doesn't work for us. Okay, so that's where we fall in trouble with HOA. Wait a second, where am I? Okay. This is the city inspection part. So let's assume that you guys work with the contractor, you submitted it, and city said, hey, go ahead, right? And one city says, go ahead, depending on where you wanted to do it. Typically, you do the demo so that, if you have stuff, you kind of put an excavator out, pull all the dirt out, put the forms in and things like that, okay? So what I liked actually is city was very thorough, at least our city, every stage of the process. City came in and did the inspection. In some stage, they did find some issues where I guess my contractor should have got it, but of course, everyone human being, so maybe they overlooked or whatever, okay? But city will go through every step in the process. There'll be inspection from the city, and there will be some feedback from city that you've got to take care and make it to work. Okay, so typically it starts off with the forms that the contractor would put for the foundation, then they put the baseline. So they start off once the forms. In our case, it's better to give a perspective from what happened to us, right? In our case, we did the forms and good that city came in and inspected it. So what they found is they found that we were off, or we were we were protruding out by about 4 inches or so. Okay, in the sense, my contractor picked up the edge of the fence, but the fences here in California are zigzag. So you should pick up the innermost point of the fence in order to come up with that 4 feet setback. because they missed it out. We were about 4 to 5 inches off, and city caught that, and we had to do the reforming. But yeah, it didn't take time. It just took maybe a day or two for them to do it, not more. But still, it's good that city catches all those stuff, because finally they are responsible to give the final permit saying, they inspected everything and things are okay to go. Sorry, did somebody have a question? Okay. And so the other thing is do the baseline. And in fact, city even went to the extent of, pouring water in the baseline and trying to see whether there are leaks and things or not. Okay, I really like that, but it's pretty intense process. I really like the way city did it. Okay, because they wanted to ensure there's not leaks. Once you pour the concrete and everything, you'll be in trouble if there's going to be leaks. So similarly, I mean, I'm not going through the entire stuff, but there are a lot more. In fact, as I said, I just put this up quick, but there are a lot more. I would say maybe I might be missing out another 3 or 4 inspections that happen. Okay, and some of the inspection based on what you got to do and everything, they might come back 2 or 3 times to ensure we have done it the right way. And one thing I purposely put here is a pre-roof inspection. Okay, every city has got different things. So once the roof trusses are being put, our city asked us to place the tiles on top of the trusses. The reason for that is not all city does that, which is what I heard. And our city's reasoning is they wanted to ensure that the structure of the roof is strong enough to handle the load and everything, which is good, but which wasn't something my contractor planned for. And then, yeah, that delayed another 3 weeks or 4 weeks because of COVID. We couldn't get the tiles we wanted for the roof, and we have to run around, get that one, and make it to happen. So it did take a dent on the timeline itself, but it was something our city wanted. And one thing California is more into is, there's something called a Title 24. So this is something that needs to be done because, when you look at what all goes in to build an ADU, the people think, oh, it's a small unit, things can happen fast, right? But no, this Title 24 talks about, all the energy efficient stuff that you need to do based on the number of windows you have and based on the type of heating you have and things like that. They have to come up with certain calculations and they have to say whether it's California standard, or they will also come and say this Title 24 company. I mean, when I say company, it's done by certain individual folks. They run this stuff for Title 24. And they will come back and give you the recommendation saying, in order to adhere to the Title 24, we have to add extra solar panels and things like that. Okay. So in our case, what happened is we did not factor skylights into account initially because I thought skylights can be added at any time. So we went through with the engineering drawing, everything was done. And then we went through the framing. As part of framing, I worked with the contractor and he said, yes, so we can put the skylights in. Yeah, put it in, looks great. And then when city came for the inspection, they said, nope, you guys did not call out the skylight. The fact the skylight was there, that changes the energy calculations. So we had to go back to Title 24 company, and then they have to redo the energy calculation. And finally, it ended up that, the insulation that needs to get inside or behind the drywall, that insulation rating got changed, and we have to beef it up with that highly rated insulation material that needs to go in. Okay, and city actually came back and checked that as well to see whether, because there is a step where they also come and check the insulation that's being put in to see whether it sticks to what we called out in the plans and everything. So it's very, very, very exhaustive. Okay, and it is really tiring as well. If people are going to question me saying, so would you mind going for another ADU if you move out of this home? I would say no. I can't go through that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of mess. And with, having a kid with special needs and trying to balance those things out, it's a lot of work. But now that we've gone through that, we're extremely happy that we went through it because, things are all falling in place and it's very, very helpful for us now.
Chat, there is some questions by Rajesh.
Rajesh, okay. Sorry, Meena. Good. How large can ADU be? Size restrictions. Good question, Rajesh. There was a time I used to be on top of it, but I forgot the actual size. But I think there that it is tied with your primary residence too. I think they say it can be 50% the size of your primary residence, but to a maximum of 1,200 square feet or so. But when I was looking at something a couple of days ago, I saw a number as 800 square feet. Okay, so maybe it got changed. But to answer your question, yeah, that is a number they run based on the primary residence, and then there is a limit that's being set on it. But that limit is set by the state and not by the city. Okay, and manufactured home. I'll come back to that, Rajesh. Okay, just hold your thought on that. Or did I go to the previous screen? Ah, okay, so let me just touch base on this. So these are the different types of homes, right? Stick built, okay. And the reason it's stick built for us is, again, we are tight on space. We had 16 feet with the setbacks and things, maybe 15.5 feet or whatever, and we wanted to pull it through on the side. And I will show you this idea so that you guys can get a feel, okay. Initially, we thought we won't be able to because our size was very, very limited and tight, okay. After things all came up, it looks pretty good, and nobody can say it's a kind of a built one after the fact. People think it came with the home itself. Okay, so stick built is primarily if you have a tight space and that you want to go with attached, because one thing that will happen is depending on where the attached is going to be, right? If your attached ADU is going to be on the side, attaching, first of all, I'm not sure whether you can get a manufactured home and attach it to an existing home, okay? And if it's going to be at the side of the home, it will spoil the looks of the home. Maybe if you have a HOA, they won't like it, or maybe the neighbors won't like it and things like that. And on the other hand, it's at the back of your home, right? Then people don't see it. Maybe people can do an attached manufactured home at the back. But I still have my doubts the way the manufactured homes are, whether you can really attach it to the home, but that's something that needs to be checked in. Okay, so coming to the manufactured home process, right? Okay, um, my recommendation is, right, if you have space in your backyard, go with manufactured home. Okay, so that will cut down on a lot of the things that's going to come up, right, in terms of all the inspections and things, which I will come back to that inspection list and talk in terms of the manufactured home, right? And so manufactured home, in my opinion, is the way to go if you have space in your backyard. So basically, you need a 4 feet setback from your back fence, 4 feet setback from the side fence, and because you have your home, typically it is a 6 foot, it should be 6 foot away from the existing dwelling, okay? So those are some of the factors that are there for manufactured home. But if you have a decent sized backyard, I think manufactured home would be the way to go. And coming back to Rajesh's question, Rajesh, we checked a bunch of things in Sacramento. This was 2.5 years ago. I think Palm Harbor and other stuff that we saw, we really liked it. Okay. And they had some of them like, what do you call, a shed style home, or um, it won't have the same kind of elevation. How do you call that? I forgot the actual name. Whatever. Okay, the roof will be a slanted roof, just one slanted roof, and it'll be a shed style. And we really like them. And the good thing with manufactured home is, you can go and see, they will have the model homes. You can go and see that. And not only that, they can customize anything that you want, which is what we like with it. Okay. So meaning we go and see a particular model that you like. They have, say, 30 models on site. You like one of them. And assuming the kid needs a wheelchair to get into the bathroom and their bathroom does not accommodate that, you can tell them saying, hey, everything is fine with me. The bathroom, I want the size to be, extra 2 feet this way, extra 2 feet the other side, and maybe one of the bedroom to be, much wider than what they have in their model home itself. So they will accommodate all those things. And you can also choose on the upgrades in the manufactured home in terms of what kind of a installation you wanted to do, what kind of a materials you want to put, whether it's wood flooring or whatnot and everything. I mean, sky is the limit for the manufactured home in case you wanted to add a lot of the goodies to it. I would say manufactured home would be the best way to go with. And with that said, let me switch to another one and come back again. As I said, I want to tie some perspective together. And one thing I wanted to call out, sorry guys, once again. Okay, one thing I wanted to call out, the last one, right? New homes with built inside. How many of you guys have seen this advertisement from some of the new, builders saying, hey, they have a suite within a home and things like that? I think it's getting popular these days, right? Okay. But what I fear in that one is I went and saw a couple of them. It looks good. It's beautiful, fantastic. And you get everything right off the bat. But my problem with that is the builder is seeing that as a suite inside home. Does the city see that as a self-contained unit, and can city call it an ADU? Okay. So that's something you'd never know unless until you go through the process. It could be based on the city as well. Maybe, a builder does it in our city and somebody buys that, works with the city and get it certified as an ADU. But the same builder builds in a different city, maybe that city does not allow. Okay. So there are, in my opinion, there are some risks involved in that because, the final thing is city has to call it an ADU in order for somebody to say, hey, I have an ADU there. The reason I emphasize on that is, okay, this also leads to another important point. So the ADU that we have for Athish, which is the one, you guys see this ADU? So even though the unit is in the side, we have a dedicated door number for the ADU, okay? And so when I started working on the process, I did work with the city, and one of the primary requirement for me is I need to have a dedicated door number. The reason for that is, we are setting up, or we already set up SLS for Athish, but process had to be tweaked there. It's called a supported living services. So regional center will only approve it if it's a different door number than the actual primary dwelling or than the one that parents live in. Okay. If it's not a different door number, if it's the same door number, from regional center standpoint, they are not going to approve SLS. Okay. So I wanted to stay clear saying like, hey, if that's a requirement from regional center, I don't want to be fighting with them later in the time and saying, hey, why can't you approve and everything? So I said, let me work on things that are needed and ensure that I can get a dedicated door number, right? But take it the other way. Maybe, there's somebody who builds an ADU and it's primarily for them for rental purpose, right? I'm just throwing it, okay? And having a dedicated door number, I mean, now Athish has got his own mailbox. I work with the post office as well, and we got a mailbox for Athish. So Athish can get his mails in his own mailbox, and we get our mails in our mailbox. So in case in the future, for whatever reason, people want to rent it out or whatever, having a dedicated door number definitely makes a lot of sense, and it will kind of help people have their own private space as well as have a mailbox and things like that too. Okay, and that is one of the reasons that I'm calling out here. When people have new homes with built-in suite, can that unit get a dedicated door number or not? Does cities see that as an ADU or not? Okay, because I've seen some stuff like that where, if I remember correctly, I think they did not have a stove or something. The kitchen was very small with just 4 cabinets. It's more like a bar table kind of a stuff rather than a full-fledged kitchen itself. And that's something I don't know from city's standpoint how well they will perceive it. Okay, so that's one of the gotcha I wanted people to be understanding about. Yeah, go
There
for
are
it.
some hands raised.
Hands raised. So what am I supposed to do, Meena? You are my secretary.
No, they can unmute and ask a question.
Hey,
Yeah,
so
sorry, go ahead, guys.
yeah, this is Rajesh.
Yes,
Just to
Rajesh.
build on your point, these new homes with a built-in suite, generally that suite is part of the home, and it usually is the same address as the primary residence home. And yeah, absolutely, you said RC will not approve SLS in those scenarios.
Correct.
So I would definitely advise people to stay away from that kind of a setup.
Exactly. That's what I've told people who reached out to me. But the thing is, Rajesh, what could happen is maybe there's a process to work with the city, but that's something completely unknown. So I don't want people to sign up for that and then realize it cannot go through and they are in trouble and they have to move out. So I
Yeah.
would say it's better to stay away from it. On the other hand, you get a used home that has a separate unit and things like that. I'm sure if the unit is decent size, but it does not have a kitchen, you can add a kitchen and then kind of work it as an ADU with the city. That will definitely work, but not the one that these guys are put in. Maybe, that there's some gray areas there that we don't want to sign up for if we don't know about it. Okay, who else had some other question? Okay, so
Was by Krishna.
Krishna. Okay, so
Sorry, that was from earlier. So
nothing from your end, Krishna?
no more questions. That was when
No
I
more
was trying to ask
questions.
the question earlier. Yeah.
Okay. So let me just take you guys to a couple of stuff and then come back. This is more, I don't want people to think that I'm selling manufactured home here. I don't work for any manufactured home guys, but okay. But for what we have gone through, I would definitely recommend manufactured home rather than a stick built. Okay, nothing against stick built, but with all the mess and things that we have to go through. Okay, so let me take through a couple of pictures and slides we have so that will kind of tell you what, okay. The benefits of the ADU itself. So this is our son, Athish, is sitting in his ADU. Okay. So our ADU is about 537 square feet. So it's about 540 for all practical reasons. And it has a 1.5 bath because we wanted to have an half a bath for the caregiver. Because once we have a full-time SLS, right now we don't have full-time, but once we have 24/7, we wanted the caregivers to have their own bathroom so that they don't disturb Atish in the night time and everything. So basically it is a 1 bedroom, 1.5 bath and a living room where the couch that Atish is sitting in that converts to a full-size bed. Okay. Again, as I said, I had limited space, so I wanted to pull it through that. But the thing is, the SLS agency does not mind about it, meaning if you have a couch that converts to a bed, they're still okay with it. So this couch will convert to a full-size bed. So in case the caregivers have to stay overnight, yeah, we can certainly do it. Okay. And the benefits of it, I think, we touched on it already, but my son lives with us in the same premises, so that is huge help. Because previously, just to give a background, we wanted to do SLS for a very, very long time. So we got a second home for Atish, or we got a second home where Atish was living in since 2015, October or so. Okay. And then we thought, okay, that's a good one. That'll be his SLS space. But the fact is, although that home was just about 2 minutes away or 2.5 minutes on foot, okay, it still had its own challenges where, if Meena needs help for Atish, I have to go there at 2 a.m. in the morning, help them out and come back and everything. And keeping an eye on whether the caregivers are there and stuff like that. We have to walk around, we have to see what's going on and everything. Okay. So now he's part of the same premises. We can actually hear what's going on. We can even tell because Atish is nonverbal. So he has a different gesture of showing his distress or pain or things that he's going through. So based on that, we know what's going on. So we exactly know, hey, whether Atish is okay or not, or something that needs our attention or what needs to be done. So from that side, it's a huge win. Okay. And from a supported living services, right? So basically, just a short version for people to understand, right? So when kids get over 18, you have the option of having them in a care home, which is a group home, okay? Or there are some residential facilities too, and or supported living, okay? So we were open for care home too, because we don't want to close doors for anything. So we went and checked a couple of care homes, or maybe 3, 4 of them, and we were not that happy with what was going on there and how well that will be compatible for Atish. In the sense, Saturdays, Sundays is primarily wherever we went, people there, they sit and watch TV and that's where they kill the time. But Atish is an active guy. He can't sit like that the entire day. So that will trigger his behaviors and everything. So we didn't personally like it. So we said, okay, we don't want to go with that route. Okay. Then we read about SLS and we said, okay, SLS would be a better option for Atish. And now that we have the ADU with a dedicated door number and everything, yeah, things are all falling in place. In fact, this SLS kicked in maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. Okay, it was a long process for us to work it out, but yeah, it just kicked in. So in that way, we are extremely happy, and the ADU is definitely beneficial for that. And the third one just touches on the HCBS compliant, because one thing that California is about is they don't want they want these kids or people with different abilities to be in an inclusive environment kind of a thing, rather than staying away or a remote place and stuff. Okay, so this will motivate that, and this is a kind of a precursor for SLS to kind of get SLS services. So this automatically falls in place because he's in the same neighborhood as we are, right? And then I talked about the dedicated door number, which is a huge win. Okay, again, you have to talk to the city well before. So in our case, our existing home number is 3498. Our neighbor's number is 3494. So there's a four numbers difference between a neighbor and us. So when I talked to the city, they said because there's a 4-number gap, they can give 3496 for Athish ADU. And I asked them the question, in case, right, that you cannot give a new door number, what options we have? They said in those scenarios, they can put 3498/A/B and things like that. So what I'm trying to get to is I've seen this concept of /A/B in Portland when I was researching on ADUs. So a lot of people for their ADU address would be 696/A or 696/B. Okay, so every city is different based on your zoning and the numbers that are available, but it doesn't hurt from day one itself talking to the city about it and emphasize on that fact so that there are no surprises at a later time. So once I got the things forwarded from the city, I had to work with the postal office, and they had to work with the county to ensure they can indeed allocate a mailbox and everything. And then things all fell in place, and we have a dedicated mailbox and address for each. And the last one talks about there's more insight into caregivers traffic, what time they come in, what time they go out. It's not that we want to micromanage caregivers, but as a parent, right? So we wanted to ensure as a caregiver is there or not. It's not whether they come on time and things like that. It's more to say, hey, is Athish is getting help? If they are not coming on time or whatever, if we have to fill in, we can go and fill in. If they are late, they're stuck in the traffic and things. But typically what happens with SLS, it's the agency's responsibility to ensure that Athish is not left alone until the other caregiver comes in. Because we wanted to set up a model for SLS. We're not there yet, but we will. That's the thing that we wanted to do is we might end up having multiple caregivers for Athish, okay, and maybe 3 caregivers or so. And the reasons are we don't want to have one caregiver and get that caregiver burnt out. And even with Athish, rather than him seeing the same caregiver, he's a very social guy, so he would prefer to meet a bunch of other people too. So our SLS model would be, having maybe 3 caregivers or 4 caregivers. We will structure it in such a way that there are multiple caregivers, and there'll be overlap between the caregivers transition as well. So with that said, SLS agency will not let Athish alone. But still, it's always better for us to know what's going on and keeping a tab on it. Okay, so I will give a pause here. There are few slides I'll show about our project. And there's also one slide that'll again tie back to the manufactured home. Okay, just hang in there. We will talk about it. There's some chat. Okay. So what is your question, Sridhar? Maybe a basic question. Do SLS provide 20? Yeah, SLS does provide. Yeah, Meena, you already answered it. Okay. Okay, so this is the unit that we had in the side yard before we converted to an ADU. So we had about 20 feet or so, 19 point something, which is what we converted. This was before the demo that we did. Okay, and one thing that I want to touch on, we went with something called panelized home. Okay, so it is not manufactured, it is not modular. Okay, if you guys are cornered to do a attached ADU and it has to be stick built, so this will cut down the time on the framing itself. I think I put the time. I'll talk about this as well. So basically what happens is they build all the walls, roof trusses and everything in the factory. And if you see in this picture, the wall does come with the window as well. So we don't have to lay the window after the fact. So everything will be done at the, in fact, I have pictures as how they offloaded it from a big truck. So everything will be done in the factory and it'll be got here. So basically it'll be small walls with appropriate, windows and everything in that.
With that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Meena, can you mute everyone, Meena? Okay. So this was cutting down. In fact, once they got these frames, for them to put this frame, including the roof trusses and everything, it took them maybe about 6 days or 7 days or so. It was pretty quick. But if you want to do it from scratch, yeah, that's going to add another 3 weeks or so. But this was really quick. And it's a good quality stuff as well. Okay. On the custom one, okay, on the thing that we went through, there's a reason why I've called this slide out is one thing that we realized is, after we did all the, architecture diagram and all the stuff, once they laid the framing, okay, I found out that as per the diagram or the design, this door was supposed to be another 3 feet into here, okay, or towards this side, encroaching to the right side. But what that will do is that will give trouble for Athish because Athish has got a visual impairment too. So I don't want him, I want him to walk straight to his room and come back. So I didn't envision it when I laid down the drawing and everything. And of course, the contractor does not know my viewpoint. But the good thing that worked out is after they laid down the framing, then I saw they saying, hey, this is where the door comes in. I told the contractor, hey, that's not going to work. Is there a room for us to change it? And he said, yeah, we can change it. So basically we were able to accommodate at least 4 or 5 on the fly changes, which are more from Athi's standpoint, which we could not visualize when we did the initial drawing and work for the engineering drawing and everything. So from that side, it really helped us. So of course, people are researching on ADU, barn doors and pocket doors are the good thing, right? So you see, this is Atish's bathroom. And even with Atish's bathroom, it came little small than what we thought. So the contractor was good enough and said, so if you need to use wheelchair, let's not stick to the 36-inch width for the door. Instead, we actually made it as 54-inch width or so, okay? So that it's easy for the wheelchair to get in and get out. And we transformed that to a barn door. And this side, we have a pocket door. You can't see it. That's the one that separates this from the other one. But these two are important artifacts. I would say a pocket door is something that if you're going with a custom home or you press for space and everything, pocket door will help you. What the pocket door does is it is actually inside the wall. When you want it, you can pull it through the wall and it will come and latch it up with this magnet that's there. If you don't need it, it goes inside the wall, so you don't see any door at all. So it definitely saves on the real estate side. Okay, this one talks about, we have a constant mess that we have to put up with. Our backyard was messy and everywhere was messy. We couldn't use anything. In fact, we couldn't even call a pest control company to take care of all the stuff they have to, because things were messed, they couldn't get in at all. So this is something you should be willing to put up with, for if you're doing with a custom built stick built home. Okay. So this one, I wanted to tie it back to the manufactured home. Okay. So this will be, of course, I haven't gone through manufactured home. I'll put a disclaimer. You still have to find out. But from what I've gone through is if you go with a manufactured home, right? So you still have to put your baseline, you still have to put your forms, you put your baseline, city will come and do the inspection and everything. And then you do the foundation as well, right? Once it is at this stage, what you see here, I think that is where it will end up with. Maybe you might have to do little tweaks or whatever, but the gist of it is, once this is done, right? And of course it's attached on the side, but assuming you guys are going with it, it's in the back, right? So once this part is done, all that you might have to do is get the manufactured home built and then lay it on top of it here and then attach it. That's all needs to happen. So this will certainly, manufactured home will certainly cut down the time that you're looking at, the mess you're looking at. And again, if you go with a reputable manufactured home guy, you get to see the model, the things that we ran into in terms of the openings that we want for Athish, for the door openings and things. you will get to see it right there, and you can make the call right there saying, hey, I want this to be another 6 inches more, 10 inches more, or whatever. Okay. So definitely manufactured home will cut down on the time and make the process flow much smoother than a stick build. Again, I don't work for any manufactured home company, but it's just based on the experience that I went through. Okay. And one other thing is, just to tie it back. So if you look at all the city inspections that we went through, okay, so all that you might have to go with is forms, baseline, foundation, but the framing, exterior sheathing, roofing, drywall, all other stuff except for the final inspection or final in the fire department, okay, all other things will be done in the factory, and they follow a different code called a HUD code, I think, okay, and it has to stick to that. So which means, you don't have to call the city folks and then get that inspected, and then there's surprises there, and then we have to fix it and everything. So you will cut down on a lot of the steps to do with the inspections completely when you go with a manufactured home. And the other important thing, I'm sure it'll be there in the other states too, is this fire department thing. Okay, there was a confusion that happened in our case where, as part of the framing inspection, the framing is the time that you put all the frames and you put all the pipes and electrical stuff in. The city has to come and do the inspection. In fact, a couple of things happened there. So what happened was city's inspector, they came up with feedback, we fixed it and everything. But when he did the final inspection, we had to call the fire department. When the fire department came in, they said they should have been informed, city should have informed them, or who should have informed, I don't know whether the contractor or city or the fire sprinkler installer. Okay. The gist of it is the fire department guys should have come during framing to inspect the fire sprinkler piping and everything too. Okay. They were not informed. So when they came in, they found like certain things were not done properly, and we have to cut the wall and then redo some other stuff that the fire sprinkler guys did. Okay. So that's something, there was a gap either with the city or the contractor, or I think it's more with the fire sprinkler installer. Maybe, the places where he did before, he did not have to loop in the city. But I'm sure for manufactured home, they will come not during the framing, but the fire department will come as part of the final inspection too. Okay, you know what? I don't know. Let me do a time check. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, so that's what I wanted to fill in for people who are going through this and, get them up to speed. I'll open up the floor for any questions that you guys have. There's a chat. You guys are silent.
Hey, Som, this is
We're all
Raj.
retired. Yes,
So
Raj.
this is Rajesh again. Can I ask a
Yeah.
question?
Yes,
Can
please.
you talk a little bit about cost and what it
Yeah.
costed, I guess, to do it this way versus what you know, at least from a manufactured home standpoint of comparable size?
Okay, you know what? That's a great question. I should have touched on it. Good that you called on that. Okay. So I would say a stick build, because of COVID, a lot of the raw materials have gone up, right? So I was asking the contractor, my contractor, the same question. I said, hey, people ask me, I need to tell them, right? So I would say it ranges anywhere from $360 to $380 a square foot. Okay. If you do it a stick build. Okay. But if you talk about a manufactured home, right? So maybe if I had to make a guess for the same comparable size, even if I beef up the stuff, I would say it might be definitely less than 2/3 the price of it. Okay. So meaning if it's about 200K to do it, or 200, okay, how much stuff? I don't know. I have to see that. Okay. So I would say it'll be definitely much cheaper, maybe 2/3 the cost, or it'll be even much less than that. Okay. But if you go with the manufactured home, because the reason I say that is, if you go and see on the internet, the manufactured home, the prices will be really fancy. You will see for 60,000, 70,000. But when you go to the actual manufactured home dealer, once they start adding up a lot of the stuff, then it'll increase the price. But definitely you will save a lot more money by going with a manufactured home.
And time-wise, Som, when you took 15 to 18 months, it sounds like for you guys to build.
Mhm.
Manufactured home, I'm sure they still have to go through some permits and
Correct.
so on and so forth. What would time-wise it would look like?
I see, if I have to do a guesstimate on that, Rajesh, I would say, once you start with the city and the process, right, the manufactured home can start building things. So things can happen in parallel, right? It need not be single threaded. Okay. So with that said, I would say maybe there's a fair chance it can happen. In fact, I had to tell, wait, August. I would say about, in my opinion, it'll be about 9 months to about 12 months or so, 9 months to a year max. I'm factoring into account, some of the COVID situations and everything, right? The delays everywhere. So it should not be taking more than that.
There is a
And
question on, okay.
yeah, and the other thing is because we went with panelized, right? So we were able to save about 3-4 weeks on it rather than, starting from scratch. Okay, there's a question, Meena, sorry.
Yeah,
On the chat box regarding water.
Or you set up the sewer line, did you connect the sewer line to the main home or did you create a separate sewer line for the area? Oh, that's a good question. So, okay, let me see, what are the questions there before? Sewage will be, yeah. So the water and sewage will be connected to the main home. Okay, so it will go through the main home and everything. So that's the way they connect it. But if you want a separate one, in fact, let me take a step back. No, it is not connected. Okay, it is like this. It has got its own sewer line and all the stuff, but at the outside of the home, it has to get connected to the same place where the main house is connected to. Okay, so meaning it is not going to the main house baseline or anything. It has all got its own dedicated baseline sewer line, but there will be a point in the house, and the most of the time it will be in the front of the house where that will be the edge of it. So that's where they have to connect us so that it goes and it goes to the same channel that the main house goes through. So did that explain it? It's a dedicated sewer line, so you cannot escape that. Okay. How did you set up sewer line? Did it connection sewer into your main home? Okay. What about electric and other? Did you set up separate? Okay. So this is a good question. Okay. Currently, we haven't set up separate electric and utilities for the ADU. Okay. It is all taking from the main home only. Okay. But I did talk to the contractor because, his take is if there is a need, right? He said it can be done. So basically all that they have to do is for the electricity stuff, I do have a circuit breaker dedicated for ADU sub panel, which will be half the size of my main home. Okay. And the only thing that needs to happen at that point in time is, if you really want a dedicated one, you have to add a meter to that particular panel. That's all it needs to happen. That's the same thing with the gas as well. Although my intent was to have it separate, my contractor felt, it may not be done now, but that's something that can be done anytime that we want. And the way it's laid out, yeah, we can do it anytime we want. And not only that, there is also, other things we factor in accounts too, is because we have solar panels in our main home, right? If you try to have something dedicated, then they might push to add more solar panels for the ADU itself. So now they try to balance things out. But taking a step back with the current setup we have, if we have to have a meter for ADU by itself, primarily because I want to rent it out or I want to show someone how much electricity is used for the ADU, that meter can be added anytime, both for electricity as well as for gas.
Few
What
more
other question?
messages.
Okay, wait, what electric? Now, what is the benefit of having ADU for special needs children instead of keeping the child in a, oh, okay. Good question, Chandra. Okay, so the thing is, I don't know when you joined, there's a concept of the supported living services. Okay, so basically when kids get over 18, you have the option to have the kids in a care home, group home, or care home or group home, or you can do residential, meaning there'll be places where, kids can be in the residential facility and they have their day programs and stuff there. Okay, or you can do a supported living service. Okay, in order to do a supported living service, okay, you need to we have to show that our son is actually living in his own space. Okay, and that space need not be an ADU. It can be a rented apartment, and it can be an ADU, or it can be a dedicated home by itself. The key thing to that is the address of that has to be different. At least that's what regional center here mandates. The address of that has to be different from our address in order to certify that as SLS candidacy and then get the supported living services. Okay. They don't want the caregivers to come through the primary home and take care of the kid. So that becomes more like a respite kind of a thing than kind of supported living services. That is one of the reasons we have to have it set up this way so that we can get services from the regional center and other places too.
No, his question is, what is the benefit of having an ADU instead of primarily having them at home? So, the question of life after us is always there among each one of us, right? And so this is whatever Som mentioned, like these are different living options. We can ensure that, now itself when we are alive, we just wanted to set it up for them so that, like after us, the SLS agency will be able to take care, or if they opt for group home, the group home agency can take care of our kids. It's primarily to set up something for them life after us. And me and Som, I'm Meena, by the way. Me and Som, when Athish was 14 years old, we had already decided that, he has to be just like any other child in this country. After 18 years, they need to have their own private space. Athish also needs his own private space, and we just need to ensure that, ensure and set up everything for him. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, and Chandra, SLS will provide 24-hour support to the children. Yes. Again, the concept of SLS is saying like, hey, Athish is living his own place and we wanted help, and he can live there with people help. So that's all it is. And there are a couple of things that are interesting. One, let me do that too. I'll complete that as well. Factory approval after applying. How long does it take? Or city approval after applying? In our case, our city was extremely fast, I would say, very, very responsive. Okay. Once we submitted, as I said, once we submitted the engineering drawing and the trust calculations and all those things that are needed for that, for the city process to kick in, I mean, within 2 days, they found the issue with the height of it. They asked us to fix it. Once we gave it, it took them, I would say, about 2 to 3 weeks for them to give the approval to say, go forward with it. But one thing we also did, my contractor was comfortable saying like, hey, this will go through. So parallelly, we started working on doing some of the demo works and everything too, rather than waiting for city to give the approval. But once the actual documents go to them, yeah, it takes them, maybe in our case, it took them about 3 weeks or so. Let me
Can
hold
I
off
ask
actually
you a
putting it.
question?
Sure.
Sorry. So regarding the converting the garage into an ADU, so can we get a separate address for that from the city?
We need to find out about that. That's something I haven't explored myself, but we need to double check with the city. But the fact that the state is giving garage ADU as another ADU option, in my opinion, we should be able to get one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then that should supersede the HOA once they approve, like you
That's
said.
Yeah. In fact, as I said, the ADU ordinances are coming from the state. Even the city cannot overrule any of that. Okay. So with that said, even the HOA cannot, but it's still better for you guys to double check with your city, but I'm almost certain about it.
But do we have to have a separate address for the ADU in order to get SOS? I thought we only have to get like a separate door, entrance have to be blocked up and you cannot, go in and out. That's what I understood, but I could be wrong. I'm still exploring.
No, it's a valid thing, meaning it's not an explicitly documented criteria from regional center, but when you call them and talk to them, that's something they've been telling us for quite some time. Yeah. So my theory is, that's what it is. Let's get it out if it's possible so that, we don't get into surprises later.
True.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
let me also tell, I think there was a question from Ragini, 1 second. For a manufactured home, is it possible to hold off actually buying it until? I think you can put in a deposit for the manufactured home and they can hold off to it, okay? But technically, Ragini, if you're doing a manufactured home, I would assume you have enough of space in your backyard and things like that, because, the only hiccups I see with approvals is if your setbacks are not being met and things like that. But if you think you have a decent sized backyard, the setbacks will not be an issue. I don't think, city will cause any challenges for that. And there was one other thing, okay, do you have to charge rent for ADU? Okay, yeah, some people charge rent for ADU. I mean, just to show that SSI funds is being used and the kids are using their SSI to pay for that as rent. And I've heard people do that. In our case, Athish has got some issues with SSI that we are still working back and forth with them. So I would assume that's the case. Meena, I think we heard in terms of generally supported living, right? From the other family who did that in Orange Vale, Meena.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you can get a rent for that. And no, I wanted to touch on another important thing that I saw, which I should have touched. Did the regional center inspect the ADU? No, regional center did not inspect the ADU. However, okay, I was keeping the regional center in the loop to understand the do's and don'ts. Okay. One thing regional center clearly told me is, you can share a wall with the existing home, okay, for the ADU, but you cannot have a common door or a window between the main home and the ADU. So that's something regional center does not like and they don't want to have it. Does it answer that? And
In the chat box, Preet has
Yeah.
asked.
what, Meena? Who has
Uh,
asked? Preet, okay. Well, a few families to purchase the land and put in few manufactured homes for our kids. Okay, you can do that. I don't see that as a problem, right? Of course, the city has to approve it. The reason I say city is these days, I've seen most of the cities approve manufactured home. I don't see any issues with them. In case you're buying a land in a city where they're completely against manufactured home, that's the time I see that as a problem. Or else, I don't think that would be a problem. Can more than one client live in an ADU? Actually speaking, yes, right, Meena? Because if you factor that as an SLS, it doesn't matter whether it's an ADU or in a separate home.
Yeah, but you have to have 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, that is true. You have to have 2 bedrooms, 2 separate rooms for them. They can't be sharing the same one. Plus, there should be a space for the caregiver to sleep. That does not have to be a bedroom, but at least they need to have a space where it could be a sofa bed or things where the caregiver can hop in.
Kaushik has asked a question
What, Meena?
on the chat, in the chat box. Kaushik question.
Okay.
Can you
This was
read
a
it?
long time. I wanted to convert, but don't know where to start. What is the first step to start with? And can you please tell me how the steps look like? Forms and how to go with. Okay. Kaushik, if I can ask you which city or state are you in? You know where Kaushik is from?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So whatever. I think the first bet is you need to talk to the city. Okay. The way I did, city guys knows me very well because I kept on calling them for a lot of the things. I mean, not to give them trouble, but to understand the process and to see what I'm signing up for and to ensure I follow all the things that they really wanted, because it's always better to go well with the city so that, we don't cause trouble because they have to approve all the stuff. So what you can always do is you can call the city office and tell, hey, I wanted to start off this way. Okay. And can I get a different door number and things like that? And in parallel, you can always pull a contractor who has done ADU in your city, preferably. Okay. And that contractor can also tell you how feasible it is. Okay. Because sometimes what happens is we think we have the space, but depending on how things are, maybe it may or may not work, right? Because you want to add a kitchen or things like that, maybe they'll say in order to do the gas line, they have to run it from somewhere else, and that's going to cause trouble. So you have to go with electricity or whatnot and everything. So it's better to start off with a contractor who has done ADU in your city. I'm sure he can tell you. And as I said, I've seen a lot of these garage ADUs in San Diego and Southern California side.
Kaushik is from Dublin.
Oh, from Dublin. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then Sue has asked another question.
Can video cameras be installed in ADU? Yeah, we have installed video cameras in ADU. Okay, and we did talk to the SLS agency and regional center too, although it's more from the SLS agency side. So we did talk to them, and yeah, we do have cameras
Yeah.
there.
Also know that we have set the camera. We actually have a conversation through the camera from our app.
Yeah, so it's a
The-
camera that we got. It wasn't that expensive. It's $49 camera, but you could have a two-way conversation. We can be on our phone from here and talk through the camera to the caregiver there to give some instructions or inquire something there. So the cameras are possible, and what we ensured, although there's more wireless cameras these days, as part of our planning itself, we made room for wired camera too. Okay, but this one that I'm talking about is wired camera. So we are able to place it. So we spotted out when electricity connection was going on for the framing. We did say the places we wanted it, and we were able to keep all those things ready there. Once things were done, we installed the cameras there. Okay. If an attached area on the side of your home, do you need additional? No, we didn't have to do anything additional soundproof. There's no disturbance from this home to that home and everything. And if we have to assume, I initially thought, because I was learning too, I thought they might break the side of my exterior stucco and then use the studs that are already there and attach this unit to it. That's what I thought, and I calculated the size of my bathroom and all the stuff in ADU, but it wasn't the case. So they did not touch anything to do with the existing home. So it's primarily, the ADU came with its own 6-inch studs, and it had its own insulation and everything. So with all those things said, yeah, we don't hear any sound from here and everything. Of course, when we keep our window open and then see, we can hear sometimes Athish screaming. When I say screaming, he enjoys dancing and everything with a high pitched tone. He kind of enjoys it. Those things we'll hear, but other than that, yeah, I mean, they don't hear much from here, and we don't hear from there too. And that's the reason we have the camera, so that we can stay on top of things. Okay, what are the other things, Meena? Copy of your floor plan. Oh, that's a good thing. One second, I can share the copy of the floor plan. That's not a problem at all. Okay. One thing is, these days, right? This is something useful, guys. Because ADUs are getting popular, a lot of the people have a or they have what to say, pre-designed ADU with the plans and everything. Okay. For example, we went with this panelized homes, okay, where they built the walls and everything. They have 4 or 5 plans already. And if your backyard supports it and you wanted to pick one of them, then, the plans and everything is already done, because they do that. It's a cookie cutter for them at that stage. They do that for other people as well. And so they are able to give it to the city directly and jumpstart the process. So a lot of people are doing it that way. So we will definitely share our floor plan. What else, Meena?
Are you sharing it now here, or they can
No, I will
email
share
us
it.
and we can do it?
I don't know what else to share here. Okay.
No.
I'm just trying to see. We had, yeah, we will share. So this is the final product. In fact, one thing that I can definitely tell, in fact, Atish's caregiver, when he went and saw the ADU when it was getting built, he was asking us questions, saying, his name is John, was asking us questions saying, so you think, is it a decent size enough for Athish to live in? It looks small. You think, will it work? Okay. He always had that question, and he was always, thinking it's not going to work. And once it's done, the way it came out in the room it has and the space it has, I mean, he has all kudos for it and he really likes it. He says, hey, so it's a big enough one, it's spacious, it's being designed well. And, in fact, I and Meena thought maybe we will move into ADU because it really looked good. In fact, we added skylights as well as part of the stuff, and that opens up the light and everything. So it definitely came out good, meaning what I'm trying to get to is, this is what the contractor told me. When he was doing the framing and everything, I was always telling him, hey, will it come okay? Will there be room for me to move around? It looks small, it looks small. But the contractor told me, so hang in there. Once all the walls and things come in place, you will see a different perspective. It will look good. Okay. Which definitely, worth it. Once we waited, yeah, it all came out good. Yeah, I will certainly share the plan. I don't have it here handy, but I should be able to pull it out and send it off. Okay, so I think we can call it a day, right, Meena? So we're done. And thanks everyone for joining in. And again,
Thank
you
you.
guys can
We are
ping me anytime. Again, the reason I went through this the hard way is I wanted to kind of help people out, let them know what they have to do and everything. And if you need any more pointers or any other stuff, let me know. I'll be happy to give you the pointers and help you guys out.
and we are having few more seminars, 4 more seminars, which are actually useful for parents in California. I'm sorry, DRC, Disability Rights California, will be hosting 4 more. It's please join, if please RSVP for that. It is going to be useful for you, and they can share of different states as well, the information for different states. Yes.
Yeah, one other
And-
thing, sorry, Meena, I'll wait for you to complete. I don't know.
No, I'm done. You
Yeah.
can carry on.
One other thing, guys who are still here, you see the bathroom here, the toilet, okay? We ensured that it's a wall hung one, and the flush is actually inside the wall. So this also gives us additional room because, ADU is a smaller space. So we wanted to make the best use of the space, and it actually turned out to be very good.
Thank you, Som. Meena,
Okay.
really good information.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thanks a lot,
sharing.
You're
guys.
all very
No problem.
welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Go.
Bye-bye. Okay,
Thank you so
Vaibhav.
much.
Thank you.
Vaibhav,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to see your ADU.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah, Vaibhav. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye. Thanks for joining.